notion of Indo-Pacific is recent and subjective, and it is relying on the different countries' point of view. So what does the term Indo-Pacific mean to you? Is it a geographical, political, or economic notion?
So thank you, Esther, once again. Let's start towards our answer and question session. So as we know, the term Indo-Pacific represents two oceans, Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean. These two oceans represents vast water of the planet. And this water has a long history with different names. Sometimes like Asia Pacific, East Asia. And to me, it's a name of water body that represents a dynamic and vibrant surrounding region with full of possibilities and potentialities. As the part of your second question, it's to me that the region accounts the 63% of GDP, including the largest and emerging economies, China, India, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Indonesia, Malaysia, Taiwan, and more than half of the population of the world in this region. Due to the center of business, trade, and commerce, and of course, most of the middle class and consumers are in this region. It consists of almost 65% of the world population. And it's a kind of sort of geo-economic notion for me. And that's why the region has a strategic gravity following the laws of large numbers, and thus the geopolitical importance as well.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much for this answer. So now, when we talk about the Indo-Pacific, we think of the clash of China and the United States mainly, and we have heard many times the expression of Second Cold War. What do you think about this expression? Can we compare the clash that the United States had with the Soviet Union and the one that is having with China?
Well, so I will not refer it as a Cold War because US-China relations are entirely different than US-Russia relations. It is not likely that US and China, like these, are attacking or targeting each other's interest like adversaries. What we are seeing in case of Russia, particularly in last 4 and 5 months since the invasion of Ukraine. However, the US and China relations have been going through a rough time since President Trump tenure. First, it was trade conflict, then the origin of pandemic, and then the supply chain disruptions. Now, a period in the US and China relation, as I can see, and I will say, a period of scrutinized engagement. Though they are engaging, they are working at some platforms together, but it's a very scrutinized manner. A period of distrust in bilateral relation has started. As we know, that economic rise of China with its massive Belt and Road Initiative, and that leads to more assertive China, more militarized China, expanding its military bases, and along with the issues in South China Sea, East China Sea, Taiwan Strait, and of course in Himalayan region too, with the border clash with India in 2020. So it's quite hard to compare both due to different different circumstances, different regional perspectives, and the difference in variables and their strategies.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. So now, in the context of the war in Ukraine, as you said just before, we have seen the United States being intensely involved in it. NATO is having a new push, and questions about the integration of Sweden and Finland are drawing the attention of the United States. So do you think the United States will set the Indo-Pacific aside? And if you think so, will it be an opportunity for China to develop its strategy without any obstacles, or will other actors come out?
Actually, in my opinion, I would say no, Indo-Pacific is not aside by any region. We are seeing the top official or flurry of visits of diplomats in the region, and an increased focus and priority of the Indo-Pacific region. For example, in the month of May, the visit of President Joe Biden, attending the Quad Summit, visiting Japan and South Korea, then Defense Secretary Austin in the month of June, attending Shangri-La Dialogue, and now the Secretary Blinken's visit for G20 meetings. These high-profile visits, and of course, I would like to mention the Vice President Kamala Harris, the last year's visit, and other dignitaries have been visiting this very frequently and regularly. These high-profile visits reaffirm the commitment of free, open, and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Additionally, NATO's strategic concept that is recently released states China as a systematic challenge to NATO's security interest and values. So it's the Indo-Pacific region, though the war is in Europe, but Indo-Pacific is again the center of strategic gravity. And now the rim pack, that is the rim of the Pacific exercise, is started. That is the largest naval exercise led by the United States in the Pacific region. Navies of 28 countries are participating. All these activities and events shows the focus in the region.
Yeah, okay, I understand. Thank you very much. So now, still in the context of this European war between Russia and Ukraine, if Russia wins it and shows to the world that it is actually possible to win a territorial dispute by using force, do you think China will accelerate and intensify its aggression to Taiwan?
Look, I would like to give a very brief and short answer to these questions, though this analogy has been discussed in the region since the invasion of Ukraine. So, well, again, I said that today's world politics is extremely polarized. If some sees aggression, then others sees it the best example of resistance and resilience. And also the love for democracy, a fight for people's will and freedom, and much more. So we can't predict on the basis of what is happening in Europe and will going to in the same way or same manner in the Indo-Pacific. That's my opinion.
Okay, so I have a new question that came out, so I'm just going to ask it quickly. It's a short one. So do you think China will just continue with its actual and current politics at the moment, and what's happening in Europe will not really influence it?
Actually, what China thinks and how China is behaving in the region, that is going in that way. Like if you talk about Taiwan's, so still China, I will take this in the another questions that you have, that the China claim it's a province. China can go to at any way to fight for Taiwan, uh, to maintain its claim over Taiwan. And again, like if we say then the Himalayan region, when we talk about India-China border clash, again, there is a lot has been discussed and 15 rounds of talks between India-China officials, but still it's the same. So I don't see like if the perception, if we're engaging China in some different way, or the assertion of China is diminishing, or of course, I can't deny with this fact that the Europe's war producing results, and of course the learning for other regions as well.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. So now, in June of this year, Xi Jinping reaffirmed his support to Moscow in terms of sovereignty and security. So what does this mean? Is it a disguised way to support the Russian invasion in Ukraine, or is China trying to reinforce its relations with Russia in order to have more weight in the Indo-Pacific?
Okay, so let's see that China is in the United Nations or UNSC meetings. What how China took all these resolutions that was against Russia. So we see that a kind of China-Russia partnership has been started, and China and Russia reiterated quotes no limits to strategic partnership and no forbidden areas of cooperation. Both have been supporting each other on global issues and also expanded trade and defense ties. Though China and Russia are not bonded by any treaty allies, they are not a treaty allies. But yes, we can say, or I would say that both want to curb the influence of the United States. And again, the blame game when starts, like if China always reacts in the situation that it's the West Cold War mentality, or it's the discrimination towards East, or particularly China. So these are the things that are showing that yes, Russia, China are at the partnership is at a different level now, while we can see the war in Europe, or maybe the China wants someone to support in Indo-Pacific, and may that have the same authoritarian ideology.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. So now in September 2021, the United States, Australia, and the United Kingdom announced the creation of Aukus, a security partnership, in order to, I quote, help sustain peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. This is what it was written in the statement of the United States. However, do you think it is the effect they will produce, or will tensions not increase with China instead?
Okay, Astrid, can we take these two questions? Like you have the another question also regarding with Aukus. Can we take these two questions together?
Oh yeah, so the one oh yeah, so in this treaty, this partnership, it's not a treaty, sorry, in this partnership with Aukus, the United States and the United Kingdom pledged to supply Australia with nuclear-powered submarines. And so France lost its contract with the normal submarines, so that was very we talked a lot about this in France, I remember. So the United States assured they were committed to upholding their leadership on global non-proliferation, so about nuclear technology. But is it not contradictory with the project of transferring nuclear technology to Australia, a non-nuclear weapon state? So they say they don't want to help the proliferation of nuclear technology, but they're actually going to give some nuclear technology to a country that is not a nuclear weapon state. So that was my question. Isn't contradictory, these two things?
Yeah, actually, like when the nuclear submarine deal was happened, then there was a lot of debate and discussions were going on since then. One is the arm race, the another is that why the nuke submarine, and then again the another thing that was in the upsetting the France by canceling the deals with French. And so, again, look, China. If we talk about China, or there were different and mixed reactions from the region to this deal, the nuclear submarine deal. And if we talk about China, China is against any grouping that doesn't consist China.
Mm-hmm.
So, like if you talk about Quad, the quadrilateral security dialogue that is a main focused on Indo-Pacific, or we are saying the alliance, a non-military, though it's a non-military alliance between United States, Japan, India, and so. But again, the China says that it's a Asian NATO.
Mm-hmm.
But the Quad hasn't any military component in this, no military element, and Quad has a more vast and broad agenda for the free and open Indo-Pacific, as we can say in the recent meetings for the Quad statement, and through the Quad working groups, like so. It's when we talk about China, it's like it's yes, that is like China says that it's against China, if it's a military alliance or a non-military alliance. So, but again, the Aukus security cooperation indicates the importance of free and open Indo-Pacific, and to provide the peace and stability in the region. When we talk about Australia, like Australia is at the receiving end of the China's US, like when in the China and Australia relations. So there's a lot more happened since the previous administration, Scott Morrison's, when the Australian Prime Minister. So China and Australia relations are not are also going through a very, very rough phase, and that was the security concerns for Australia, and also again the peace and stability for the region. However, if we talk about ASEAN states, Association of Southeast Asian countries, they have their mixed reactions and doubt on this deal, on submarine deal, that on arms race. Again, there is some says that it's arms race will increase the arms race, but again, the most of the countries are looking at the strategy it is to the strategical point of maintaining peace and stability in the region, and on the side we see that China's assertive nature.
Okay, yeah, I understand. Okay, Thank you very much. It was very interesting. So now we will focus on India. So it is an emerging country member of the BRICS, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and the second economy of Asia after China. And in the scope of the United States-China confrontation in the Indo-Pacific, what would be the role of India according to you?
When it talks about the confrontation or great power competition, India India has a different stance that we all have been witnessing. Well, let me say that India is a third economy in Asia after China and Japan, and predicted to be second economy by surpassing Japan by 2030. Usually we have seen India's neutral stance when it comes to, as I say, great power confrontation. This neutrality in India's foreign policy can be traced back in the history of Cold War, when the world was divided in two blocks, the United States, and one side there was the USSR, when we say. And India established non-alignment approach at that time with other neutral countries. But now it's not a kind of non-alignment, but it's a proactive neutrality. Means that India doesn't want to pick side in case of conflict between great powers. At the same time, India is aligned with many countries, what we call multi-alignment approach of India's foreign policy. So while India supports international law and UN Charter, well, when that you mentioned in your question that about the conflict between US and China and Indo-Pacific, well, I don't expect any close any conflict in near future. And in that case, India always supports diplomacy and dialogue to solve the disputes.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. So India, when I was doing my article about Indo-Pacific, I had the impression that India seemed to be excluded from the initiatives of regional cooperation and integration in the region. So it is not part of the ASEAN Plus 3 on the previous TPP, on the APEC, and it's not part of the RCEP either. And so what are the reasons for this exclusion? And do you think India has a future in these partnerships?
Well, when we talk about ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Countries, that is a group of South and East Asian countries, while India is a South Asia country.
Yeah, but the ASEAN Plus 3 is with Japan, China, and Korea.
Yeah.
And they didn't include India in it.
Yeah, again, I will say that the Southeast Asian countries have it's more a kind of geography and their uniqueness in nature, and because Japan and South Korea they are in East Asia, not like India is a part of South Asia. Again, I would say, but it's when we talks about the partnership preferably or particularly economics. So it's more about how these partnerships satisfies countries' interest, like how these partnerships satisfies India's interest and concerns, of course. Like as we know that India, China are not friends, or let's say adversaries, or and since 2020, the Galwan Valley face-off, like the relations are not in business and trades are not as usual. So India left RCEP, regional comprehensive economic partnership. Despite being a drafting member in that group, and Trans-Pacific Partnership, I think it was mainly focused on North American region and led by the United States. But the President Trump, at the time of the President Trump, the largest economy like the US withdrew from it. So its future is quite uncertain. So, and if you talk about the partnership, like India is now a member of recently announced Indo-Pacific economic framework, that is the IPEF, which has dozens of other countries. So it depends upon the country's interest and concerns too.
Mm-hmm. Not the last, so just before the last, so if India is not developing its relations with other Asian actors, who do you think could become a partner of India? Is India directing its strategy toward the United States and Europe, and how this could help to establish itself in the Indo-Pacific?
Yeah, India, let me say that India has a good relationship with ASEAN countries with active participation. And like ASEAN was established in 1967, but India is an active partner in several regional forums like Asia Europe meeting, East Asia Summit, ASEAN Regional Forum, and ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting. So, and also that is expanded ASEAN Maritime Forum. That is also India is also a member of in these forums, and India's foreign policies approach of look east to act east policy emphasize the importance of ASEAN countries in India's foreign policy. India became a sectoral partner of ASEAN in 1992 and dialogue partner in 96. In sum up, I would say that there are in total 30 dialogue mechanisms between India and ASEAN, cutting across various sectors that India is working with ASEAN. And again, then India has a bilateral relations with ASEAN countries, bilateral relation with Japan and South Korea. These relation, India's bilateral relations are expanding and with the Japan and South Korea at the strongest level in history. And beside this, India has a defining moment in its relationship with the United States and India-EU partnership. So like India is a again, I would say the multi-aligned approach, and is engaging with not only the Asian countries, but in the Europe and with the America too. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. And so my final question, so this one is more focused on India itself and its future evolution. So do you think India could become a permanent member of the Security Council, and what impact would it have?
Yeah, I strongly believe so, that India's membership for the Security Council, and as India always binding with the UN Charter, international law, and supported the contribution of the United Nations peacekeeping mission worldwide. And India is one of the UN's signed at the time of the foundations, or as the India got independence. It's independence since the inception of India. It's a member of the United Nations. Represents a 1.3 billion population, largest and most vibrant democracy. India's soft diplomacy at the time of the pandemic, like vaccine diplomacy, production of the vaccine, and the sending it out to the worldwide, that India can play the major role if India gets the permanent seats at UN, and for the democracy and for the rights of the liberties. So yes, of course, we see it very positively, that the expansion of UNSC.
Okay, thank you very much.